You are live.
All right, I'd like to call the Budget and Finance Committee meeting to order. And for the record, we have all members present except for Councilwoman Baylor. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting?
I'll make that motion to accept minutes from last meeting.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, very good. All right, and for the record, we do have Councilwoman Baylor with us. Thank you. Okay, if you would go ahead and proceed, Sarah, and I believe we have, is it 2 or 3 items with us today? 3?
We have 3 items.
Okay, very good.
The first one is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee without the formality of publicly advertising for bids to enter into a contractor contracts with Involto LLC for the renewal purchase of servers and software at Involto's Akron data center and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have, this is for our hosting of our city servers that formerly were hosted at City Hall, but now are primarily hosted at the Involto facility. We have Bill Fatica from our IT department that can talk about this a little bit more.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Steve said, I'm Bill Fatica. I'm one of the IT managers here at the City of Akron. Involto is a 3-tier data center that's located here in Akron. They've been here, I think maybe this might be their 9th year that they've been here. And their facility is, we've actually been a part of their facility since day one. We were actually the 3rd tenant in their data center behind Akron General and City Hospital. So we've been with them for the last 8 years. We're looking to renew our contract with them for another 5 years. And like Steve was saying, we house all of our servers and our main primary infrastructure down at Involto. We put in our new hardware environment last year down there. That's all of our production applications, servers for public safety. We also have courts down at our facility. We rent 3 racks from them. And we basically want to go ahead and renew for another 5 years. And that's kind of what we do at Involto today.
Okay, very good. Questions or comments from, we'll begin with committee members. Raised hands. Okay, any other council members that might have questions or comments?
My hand is raised, Mr. Chair. Did I raise my hand?
I don't see it, but go right ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you. It's hard to believe that Involto has been around for 9 years. I remember when we went there to see it when it opened. So all of our backup support is through Involto.
Yeah, we used to have our backups data center down there. Since we upgraded here last fall, we made the decision to put all of our production environment down at Involto instead of 8th floor of the municipal building. Yep, we have all of our servers, our main switching network and stuff like that is all down at Involto. We're also looking at possibly doing a second DR site with Involto, possibly located in Youngstown or Independence, so we could have a secondary backup site also.
So Bill, can you explain a little bit what DR is for everyone on the call?
Yeah, sure. DR, sorry about that. DR is disaster recovery. So basically, if anything would happen to a server at Involto, our main data center in Akron, we would fail over to a secondary site and we would house servers and stuff out there and we would continue to function as normal if anything would happen at our Involto Akron site. So it's kind of a failover and a little bit more protection for us if any of our applications go down.
And this 226,800 will cover all of that.
That's correct. That's for 5 years, yes.
Right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, And Bill, I remember back, well, years get away from me. I can remember back fans and trying to keep the 8th or 9th floor cool here several years ago. So it's great to have that off site. Okay, I don't see any other hands. If I'm missing you, please speak up. Would consent agenda be okay on this?
Yes.
Okay, then we have a motion for consent.
Motion for
consent.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And thanks, Bill, for all you do. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item number 2 is an ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent to enter into an agreement or agreements without the formality of advertising for bids with Amazon and WB Mason for the purchase of miscellaneous supplies and equipment used by various divisions and departments of the city for a period of 1 year, authorizing payment therefore and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Fricker?
I'm going to turn this over to Shelley Goodrich. She's going to talk about this one.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. The Finance Department's respectfully requesting that Council approve this no-bid piece of legislation to allow the city to purchase office supplies and other miscellaneous small purchase items through both the WB Mason punch-out catalog and the Amazon punch-out catalog. We're going to go ahead and demo. Steve's going to actually demo those for you guys after I give you this little spiel so you can see how easy it is now for our city employees, including yourselves, to purchase these items through these punch-out catalogs. The city has previously sought and received permission from City Council to purchase office supplies on a no-bid basis from Staples, but we did not include that in the no-bid legislation we took earlier this year because we knew we were going to be transitioning and moving over to Workday and having these punch-out catalogs. Office supplies are items that are generally provided, though, by 2 large conglomerates, either Staples or WB Mason. So there's not really an opportunity when we are talking about office supplies to have a local or diverse company because most of the smaller office supply businesses have been gobbled up by these 2 larger companies over the last 20 years. The city of Akron is going to garner many benefits by allowing employees to purchase these small dollar office supplies and items through WB Mason and Amazon. The purchasing department will be able to focus on larger procurements and have a greater opportunity for substantial cost savings and to work with Sheena Fain, our new diversity supplier position, to increase diversity and inclusion on our service contracts that purchasing is sending out to bid. The purchases that are going through these punch-out catalogs are still subject to departments' budgets. They're going to still flow through approval queues, and certain items and commodities are prohibited from being purchased in this manner. So we do have a lot of control around what the city employees are purchasing. Prior to our recent charter changes and the implementation of Workday, the purchasing department would get 3 quotes on even small dollar items. And we were wasting so much time and paperwork into purchasing goods that were $250 that even if a small cost savings was realized, the amount that was spent in labor and resources to process the PO and purchase the good was exceeding the amount of the cost savings. So the purchasing department will also monitor that purchases that flow through the punch-out catalogs items are not being purchased through this means that can be sourced from a local and or minority business. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Steve now. And he's going to go ahead and demo the ease of utilizing these punch-out catalogs in Workday and demo how it's streamlined our purchasing process.
Okay, so before I even get in and do the demonstration, I'd like to recognize we have on the call with us Mike Wheeler from our Audit and Budget Division, and he was largely responsible for the setup of this. He worked very closely with both Amazon and WB Mason, and we're also kind of working with Dell now. So we're going to see when we go in there, we have 3 punch-out catalogs set up that we're going to be able to use. And this really takes the place of a process that we were doing manually before. We've been ordering office supplies through WB Mason for a number of years now, but it was kind of a manual process of looking up through the paper catalog that we had, looking up those item numbers, sending it to our purchasing division. They would actually do the ordering with WB Mason. And then when the billing came in, they would have to distribute that billing back out to the departments that ordered the goods. This just basically creates a pretty much of a direct link between the ordering department and the supplier, WB Mason. So that's what I'm going to show you right now. So I'm logged in as Sarah Biviano, and we're going to order some supplies for the council clerk's office. So this is kind of what the welcome screen to Workday looks like. And this is what Sarah sees when she logs in. So one of her applications that she has here is called Purchases. So we're going to click on that. And then one of her options is Connect to Supplier Website. So we're going to click on this box. And then she's going to get a little screen here. And we have to tell it what type of requisition that we're putting in. So we're going to do a goods requisition. And you see that it's capturing all of Sarah's default information. So her home cost center is the clerk of council. That is a budget that's contained within the general fund. So we're going to leave these options and we're going to say, okay. And it's going to bring up the 3 punch out catalogs that we have set up. So right now we have Amazon and WB Mason set up. We're still kind of working out a few things on the Dell punch out catalog. But for today, I'm going to go in and do a purchase out of the WB Mason catalog. So I'm going to click connect here. And this is going to take a few seconds to connect Sarah's account out to the WB Mason website. So this usually takes about 10 seconds or so. And here it is. Okay, so now we can see, and you can see up here that we're logged in as Sarah. And so let's go, I'm just going to search for binder clips. And we'll do some medium binder clips. And let's see here. We'll just order some of these blue ones here. We'll order 2 boxes of those. So just like any common, online shopping site, there's a shopping cart. You pick your quantity, you see your price, you hit add to cart, and it's going to put these in the cart. And let's order some folders too. So I'm going to hit continue shopping. And let's type in file folders. We'll do file folders letter size. Okay. And let's just order one box of these. So I'm going to add to cart. Okay, so now that we've got these 2 items, I'm going to say continue to checkout. And what's going to happen is it's going to pull all of this information back into Workday. So now we're back into the Workday requisitioning screen. And you can see it's pulled out these 2 items here. The total amount is $74.73. So for these folders, I'm going to say, just going to put a little memo. So as we'll show you, these all go through an approval process still. So just like we had before, there's still a set of approvals that all of these requisitions go through. And the more information that gets keyed in with them, the easier it is going to be for whatever manager is approving things, and ultimately when our purchasing department gets it, to tell what's going on here. So the more information that's included, the better. So we'll just say folders for. And I'm going to go down to the binder clips and also put a little memo on these. Okay, and now we're going to check out. Okay. So one thing we're going to do a couple things here. So one, we have to tell it a spend category. So this is kind of, when we go through the budgets each year, there's a series of accounts. You have labor accounts, materials, supplies, contractual items. So we're going to tell it that we want this charged to our office supplies. So, and I can just type in office, and Workday is real good about being able to do a search for for text and bring up the right accounts. So for both of these, I'm going to put in office supplies. Okay, and then deliver to, so right now it's saying municipal building, but we need to tell it that we want this sent to the 3rd floor of the municipal building. So we're going to type in council here, and it's going to bring back that room 301 for each of these items. Okay, and we can see here we've got our quantities, our unit cost, our total amount. Let me scroll down here so we can scroll over to the right. It's showing our ship to contact is Sarah. If we wanted to add a delivery date, let's say we want these on Thursday. So we can add that in. It's showing the suppliers WB Mason. And here's all of our codes that we're charging everything to. So we left the default. So these are being charged to the clerk's office. In this case, for council, we don't have a project or a grant, but for a number of our purchases, these are going to be applicable fields. So, some of our capital projects, we set up project numbers for those. We have a number of grants, especially like in the housing grants that we get through HUD. We have different grants set up, also a lot in our police department. So when applicable, then these other fields can be filled in. And then we've got our fund that these are going to the general fund. I'm going to go ahead and submit this. And the first thing it's going to do is it's going to do a budget check on this. So this is telling me if I go to view details, and I'm still logged in as Sarah right now. And one thing I'll point out is I'm in a kind of a test version of our Workday database. So this is not the real version. This is all make believe. So I'm not really ordering any of this stuff. And in our real production environment, obviously, I don't have the ability to log in as other people. We can do that in this test environment, but in the real one, no one can log into anyone else's account for security reasons. Okay, so we see that this is going through a budget check, and if we click on this details and process, we can kind of see, if I click on this process, we could see where this document has to go, the different approvals it needs to go through. And some of these vary based on the dollar amounts of the requisition or whether it's hitting a grant or project code. So I'm going to click on this remaining process here, and it's going to show all the steps that it needs to go through. So we can see this one, because Bob is the cost center manager for council, it's going to go to Bob Keith for approval. And then a lot of these, it's really not going to have to go through these different queues based on the fact that it's a relatively small dollar item. So it's not going to have to go to our business asset accountant because this isn't something that we're going to capitalize. And it's not going to have to come to me or Shelly because the dollar amount is too low for it to come to the finance executive. So what I'm going to do here, and again, because this is the test environment, I'm able to just kind of shift over. So I'm going to log in as Bob Keith now, so he could see this document to approve. So I'm just going to go in as him real quick. And then when we see, once we're logged in as Bob, he's got an inbox here. And so this is what things look like when they go through the approval queue. So everyone has an inbox. And if they click on their inbox item, he's going to see all of the data that we entered with this requisition, and then make a determination on whether to approve it or to send it back. So he has basically three choices. He can approve it, he can send it back to Sarah, and he might have a comment that he wants something changed or order more or whatever. So whatever changes he might have, or he can deny it, which would mean that it would completely cancel the requisition. So it would not be out there to change anymore, even it would just go away.
Is the person put in the requisition, are they then automatically notified that the
Correct.
request?
Yeah.
Okay.
So notice up here, and I'll kind of click out of here. So in addition to an inbox, there's a notification box that everyone has. So, right, if Bob were to disapprove this, Sarah would get a notification that it's been disapproved. So there's a lot of communication that's shared between the different users that are interacting with these documents.
Okay,
So we can see that Bob could see all the information that was entered. He could see the whole history. So if he wants to know who's signed off on it or who's entered something, he can see the entire history of this document. So if I just say approve.
So this has definitely cut down on our need for our employees in purchasing to purchase these small dollar office supplies and small dollar items that will be flowing through Amazon, and streamlined. And eventually it's going to issue a requisition that is then automatically sent to WB Mason and Amazon, and the items will next day ship, to the city department.
Right. Yeah. So I'm not going to run this the entire way through the system. So right now, if you look at my screen, you can see that it's with Kimberly Hansen. She works in our purchasing division. So she would then take this requisition, create a purchase order off of it. It would then be signed off on either by Shelley or Sean Volman, who are acting as the purchasing agents right now. And then it would actually be a purchase order that would go off to WB Mason.
So we just wanted to show you guys how this has streamlined our processes. You guys actually have access to this if you get into Workday as well. If you wanted to order some office supplies for your council offices, there are levels of approval that go along with it. We are monitoring people's spend, obviously, making sure that it's within budget, or else it'll throw a budget check issue. So just wanted to demo that for you so you could see how we're working to increase efficiencies around this process, and why the no bid legislation is needed, because we did work to get these punch out catalogs implemented. Just one other thing, Dell was on the no bid that we took earlier this year. That's why it's not in this piece. We, at that time, we were still in the implementation phase of Workday. We have been purchasing things from Dell under that no bid legislation that was previously passed. We just need also legislation authorizing us to be able to purchase items through WB Mason and Amazon as well.
Okay, very good. Okay, questions and comments from any committee members or council members? I only have 4 folks up on my screen here. If you could,
Here, I'll stop sharing.
If you could stop sharing. Okay, looking around here.
Mr. Chair, I can see that Councilman Neal has his hand raised.
Okay, Councilman Neal.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks for the presentation. I just had a question, and this may not be able to be addressed, because as I went through my mind, I can't even think of a local office supply store or furniture store. I mean, there used to be one up by where now is a parking lot where St. V's parking lot is, but that was my concern is, I mean, even if it's a local big box store that's in our area, do we have the ability to direct that the purchase as much as possible be local? I pulled up that WB Mason. I see they're in North Olmsted, and I tell you why I asked. My neighborhood is serviced by the West Side Leader, and I reached out to the publisher and I asked him why certain circulation stopped in certain areas. I thought they didn't have, well, they have challenges like any business getting people to deliver. Well, part of it was that these big businesses are so sophisticated, they discriminate where their ads go. And if they don't advertise, that's less revenue for the paper. So I'm looking at the holistic impact. I mean, this is fabulous. I mean, we'll be able to tell, down to the penny what we're spending, how we can save. But with us being one of the major influences on how to drive business, if there's any kind of way we could work with these guys, because I don't know if WB Mason advertises with the Beacon Journal or any of our local papers, or if any of these companies. And it's not a criticism. Please don't take it as a criticism. It's just a reality of where we are.
Mhm.
You know, we all run out to the suburbs to go do our business, and our local neighborhood stores, they die. And now it's just the challenge that communities are facing. Amazon is such a blessing and a curse that it's going to impact us. And so, you know, I know the answer won't come from right here, but it's something we have to look at, because it's something, if we can say, hey, we're doing business with you, we want you to do business with our businesses, advertise in our paper. So, but if we're sending our stuff out, they're not advertising in our papers, they're not advertising on our local radio stations. You know, they're not doing business in our community, but we're sending all our business out and we're left barren. So that's just my concern. But
Yeah, right.
as I said, when I thought about furniture stores, there aren't any. I saw you shaking your head, Steve. There aren't any anymore. They're all gone.
I know. Yeah. So it was always important to the city to use a local office. So we used to, bid out that office supply contract with, one of the local stores. I know Costigan's, I think, is the one that you were talking about that was by St. Vincent's. They just aren't. They've all been bought out by the big box, the Staples and the Office Depots. So I believe, and I think Shelley was looking at this, I believe even WB Mason is owned by Staples.
No, Staples owns Office Depot,
Staples
but WB Mason is still independent.
Okay.
So it's really, there's two players, it's Staples and WB
Right.
Mason. So that have pretty much purchased up all the little guys. And this is an area that we're going to be very careful that anything that can be purchased is something that cannot be purchased locally or from a diverse vendor within the city of Akron. So, if we have to lock down certain commodities, we've already done some of that. But if I'm seeing items, and Steve and I are seeing all of these items flow through our queues, and we're like, hey, that's something that we can get locally, then we're going to explore that avenue. But there's just times that our employees need something, they need it quick,
Right.
and there's just not a local vendor that can provide that, and we're providing them this avenue to get those items.
It's all about striking a balance between, we want to have local purchasing as much as we can. So it's up to Shelley and the people in purchasing to make a determination on, what's appropriate to let flow through these catalogs like this, small dollar things, what's appropriate to say, no, we don't want to buy this through the punch out. We want to actually bid this out so that our local vendors have a chance to participate in this procurement.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Malik?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you so much for the presentation. Now I know, Mr. Fricker, why you're so excited about Workday. But I think, I certainly appreciate Councilman Neal's point. And when I was reading the legislation, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but part of the point here is to increase the efficiency of how we're doing our purchasing, so that we can spend more time on looking for diverse suppliers for some of the bigger ticket items. Is that right?
That is absolutely correct. I mean, there's times when you can buy a small, some item that might be $50 or so. If you looked at the actual cost in the bureaucratic processing of that item, you're more than doubling that cost of buying a small $50 item. So you have to be smart about purchasing these things and do the small dollar ones efficiently, which, as you said, frees up more time to to give bidding opportunities for the larger dollar items and support our local businesses.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fricker. So I know now where to go to order those big 32-inch monitors I need for my laptop.
So keep in mind, everything's going through an approval process. So I think that there might be a red flag on that one, Mike.
You think there might be? Okay, very good. Would consent be okay on this as well, Steve?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. So
Make a motion for consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Okay, very good. Okay, thank you so much. And yeah, good work. It's great to see government get streamlined that way. And sometimes we don't think about government as being efficient, but I think you're doing a great job.
One
there.
other thing I'll mention is I know that we have not really had an opportunity yet to sit down with the council members and kind of provide a training on, how to use Workday. Obviously, all of your paychecks and a lot of the stuff that you used to be able to get, via paper is now embedded in the Workday program. So I do want to schedule some time with council to, to have some of our trainers sit down with you and work through, the things you need to learn about Workday.
Okay, good. Yeah, I look forward to that. And you can work with, I'm assuming President Somerville. That would be great information for all of us to have. Okay, Sarah, we have one last piece.
Yes, the last piece is an ordinance ratifying the actions of the administrator or administrative judge of the Akron Municipal Court in contracting with Camarios without the formality of advertising for bids for the renovation of the 7th floor offices of the Akron Municipal Court, authorizing payment therefore and declaring an emergency.
Okay, Ms. Jackson, are you going to be speaking on this?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon,
Thank you.
Aaron, members of the City Council. So the proposal you have before you is regarding services that were purchased. It's actually an IT server room and IT server rack location. And this, you may recall, is in line with the massive case management system overhaul that we're 6 months into that implementation. So it's in a highly secure area. It's a time-sensitive project, and it's actually a partial remodel of the area. The original proposal was for 4 areas, but in light of the need to move forward, the judges authorized me to move forward with the portion that was the most urgent because of the mechanical needs in the server room related to some of the HVAC changes. I heard some of you say earlier about the cooling and heating issues in the building. We've went through summers where the air conditioning was out, and also we are bringing back all of court staff back to the court facility starting June 1st. So by making that space more efficient and relocating some of the server areas, the ones that we have remaining on site, we're able to accommodate more staff and properly social distance the court staff.
Okay, very good. You had probably, I don't know if you heard our first piece of legislation where we've moved a lot of our servers off site. Is that consideration for you all, or help me understand that?
So Bill Fatica did share, we have moved some of our servers to Involto. That was a project in August. We had to upgrade the system. We still have some items on the rack, but as you know, we're moving forward with we're replacing the 30-year-old case management system. So after February, we will have more flexibility there in terms of the servers, but there still will be some servers that we will need to keep because of the legacy system. And so we just want to make sure the environment was stabilized for that. And it also required abatement because our floors have not been abated on the courtroom floors. So it made it more of a project than you would normally think for a space of that size.
Okay, very good. Okay, Mr. Malik.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Ms. Jackson, for being here. I know we spoke earlier and I shared some concerns and questions just regarding first the ratifying after the fact instead of approving it beforehand by council. And I guess if you can talk a little bit about the process as we discussed. I mean, my concern was, again, from the documentation that's on there was the project was pretty well set by at least mid-March. And so I wonder why it couldn't have been brought to council around that time. And then the second is sort of the no bid aspect of it. I know that, the contract with Camarios, and, what specific reason did it need to be Camarios? We look at like sole source or things like that. I know they're familiar with the building, but, why couldn't it have been other entities that were solicited proposals?
So those are very good questions. And I shared, when we discussed the consideration that went into this. So initially, the original project was 4 times the size, 4 times the cost. And before the judges would authorize moving forward, we reached out to the mayor's administration to determine the status of the new court facility, because we wanted to weigh, well, should we spend this amount of money? Is the new building still in the timeline? And so that took some time. So by the time we got to March, after those meetings were held and we got to the month of March, it became more urgent, at least for the server, IT room and the rack, just because of also the case management system project we're working on, that we had to move forward with that. Temarios is a vendor that we've used on other projects in the subs building and the facility. And when we reached out to them, we had already known about another project that they worked on earlier in the summer. And as you know, with a server room which houses our main AMPS is our computerization system, it's crucial to make sure that, if we're doing a fast change, that it's someone that we've worked with before, that we're confident in the work that can be done. And plus they're in an area that's highly sensitive, highly secure. And so the proposal that you have was actually, I believe, drafted March 18, and there was an abatement period that it took, I think, 10 days to get on the schedule. And so here we are already in May 17th, and the project is probably about 80%, 90% complete, but I have staff coming back to the court on June 1st. And so even, moving forward with the time frame we had, we're still very close in a short window. But the reason, we felt that Temarios was appropriate because of the work that had been done in the facility, and we already had the proposal. And with it being mechanical needs and server needs, it became more urgent for us.
Thank you. I guess, and I appreciate the explanation. I guess, this is a little bit of something that always sticks with me when we do things by no bid, or when we ratify things after the fact. I know we have, emergency measures. I know this is something, sometimes I've raised questions when things come up with the administration on an emergency basis or on a no bid basis. I guess I would have a question for either Ms. Goodrich or Mr. Fricker. In my mind, situations like this, and I don't know without delving into the details, what is appropriate and what's not, but it sounds like situations like this really would behoove us to have a citywide policies regarding when emergencies are appropriate and also when no bids are appropriate. Do either of you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I can weigh in. We are in the process of hiring a new purchasing agent. We did interviews last week. It's definitely something that we need to address because it's an issue across the board, right? Emergencies do come up, but we need to make sure that we're being inclusive when emergencies do come up, and that we're spreading the work amongst, multiple businesses within our community, because this is something that we could have, Temarios, I'm sure, is doing a wonderful job, but we could have potentially used a smaller business or one that went through the MCAP program or a diverse business for this project. So that's definitely something that once we hire the new purchasing agent, Sean and I are going to move to more of an advisory role, and we're going to be working on developing a lot of the much needed policy around purchasing and developing a manual for everyone to follow, because that's an issue, I think, just not in this case, but in, multiple cases that we've seen where the departments just pick a vendor that they're comfortable with, and they're not making sure that we're being inclusive, when even in those emergencies, situations. So
if I could, I will share that the other 75% of the project, when the judge is authorized to move forward, we will have the time frame to, and Shelley did put me in contact with Sheena. So we definitely recognize the importance of competitive bidding, and we appreciate the spirit of that. But when the court does have an emergency around technology needs and technology servicing, And with us using the court's special project funds that are specifically set aside for the building facility, we felt comfortable moving forward, but we recognize the concerns that have been raised.
Thank you both for the discussion. I just think that it's important that we have a clear process that's set out so we know who's making that determination ultimately of what's appropriate and when. And seemingly it should be the law department, but it seems like this is something that comes up every couple months, and it's all across different departments. So I'm not trying to pick on anyone. I guess the last question, if I may, Mr. Chair, I had Ms. Jackson. I know there's no shortage of issues when it comes to the Stubbs building, and I know one that comes to mind often is the elevators. I mean, are there things coming up that you do see as pretty short-term needs that we do need to address while we're having these broader conversations about the building?
Thank you for asking. Actually, the elevators are on the top of my list in terms of, even if we did move to a new court facility in 2 to 3 years, there are some, concerns on site here. So that would be definitely one. Now, the group may know that the Court Security Committee has been meeting, and the plan is to cost out, what things we would suggest, what's high priority. Is it something that's affordable, weighing it to waiting for the new building, that sort of thing. So we are working on a list, and there are representatives from across the city on that, as well as the community.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. I don't know, Mr. Chair, whether it might be appropriate. Maybe that group could come and speak before one of our budget and finance meetings in the next month or so, and just kind of give us an update. Because I think, I think when we look at the current court building, the new court building, I think if we can help at all in those discussions, I think it'd be helpful, and just for us to know what's going on a little bit more.
Oh, and if I could add too, so with the court being a separate branch of government and not a department, I think a policy would be helpful, so we could outline those things that don't fall within the same policies as, the other departments. I agree that would be helpful.
Correct, but we all still are covered under the charter, which provides that we have to have competitive bidding in certain circumstances. So, but definitely that's something that we're going to be working on, is having a process for when there are emergencies or we need to move quickly, that there is a process for approval, because, through the law department or the purchasing department.
Very good. Ms. Amobian.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. I have a hard time figuring out if I'm mute or not. But anyway, thank you very much. And I certainly agree that streamlining the purchasing process is great. And thank you that someone is going to train us on how to go through the workday equipment. I think that's how we get our check stubs and everything these days. But anyway, I just want to ditto everything Councilman Malik has stated with regard to no bids and starting projects before they are approved, because it gives the impression that council is not even needed for some of this approval. But in addition to that, it also reminds me of a process that we've used over the years, going to our same good old friends. I think when I use good old boy, some people get offended, so I'll not use that. But we're going through the same process that we've used for years, which has gotten us where we are today. And that's why we are trying to diversify what we do and how we go about our business. But in addition to that, my question had more to do with, does he have a diversified staff? I don't even know how many people of color or foreigners that he really has as part of his group. That would be nice to know who's working on this project, because Tamaro's has gotten a lot of city business. And it would just be helpful to know, are we working with people that share our values and the direction we're going? And if so, is it reflected in the people they hire? So if someone could get that information to me, Ms. Montrella, it would be nice if you could find out from them who's on their staff, who's working on this project. Because as we look at not doing this no bid kind of work anymore, or reducing the amount that we do, it would just be helpful to know going forward who's actually sharing our values and the culture that we're trying to create. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Amobian. Okay, anyone that I'm missing? Okay, thanks for all your comments, and I think today's meeting is going to lead to some more discussion in the future. Ms. Jackson, thank you for what you're doing over there for us. And if consent agenda would be okay, or do we need to, because some of this work has been performed already, do we need to get this passed this evening? Looking to Mr. Fricker, somebody for advice.
Given what you just stated, it would be advisable to pass this tonight. If council wanted to take a week, certainly, that's their choice, but,
I
this
move that
work
we
is
put
being
it on.
done.
Yeah, I moved to put it on the consent agenda. I mean, it's not stopping anything. I mean, it didn't stop it from starting, and it's not going to hold it up. So I move that we do consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion for consent.
Second.
And we have a second for Mr. Lombardo. All those in favor of placing this item on the consent agenda, please let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll place this on the consent agenda as well. Thank you again, Montrella, for being with us.
Thank you, everyone.
And thank you very, very much. And we will call ourselves adjourned at, looks like it's about, 3:48. Thank you so much.
That is the final committee meeting of the day. Council will meet at 7 p.m. tonight. Thanks, everyone.